All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It seems everybody, or almost everybody, is here for the final plenary. And it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this final plenary session. In fact, it will be one big final plenary, so don't worry about the individual time slots that have been allocated. We will start at one point and we will end punctually for lunch, or for all those that have a plane to catch. I think we will be in time, so don't worry. I would like to draw your attention to a few features of this conference. One thing that I have not had a chance to mention: in your material you found this calendar for the next year. This calendar has been designed by a young artist, so he was given the statements on the Bologna process, and then what you see here, he transformed these statements then into pictures. So this is a very, very original calendar, and you can use it to give away as a Christmas present for somebody whom you like. Okay. Second point, please do not forget to fill in the evaluation sheets for this conference. That will be around somewhere, or you will be given them, or they will be distributed, or they will be at the entrance. I don't know where they are right now. All the presentations of this conference have already been put onto the website, or are going to be put on the website, so you will find all the material of this conference there. This seminar has been a particular seminar, I would say. First of all, from the point of view of topic. The topic of research-based education is not, I would say, an operational Bologna topic, like internationalization or learning outcomes. And as we have seen, I think, from the discussions of the previous days, it's a rather fundamental topic, and it is a topic that goes very much into institutional strategies, and it goes very much also into the culture of European higher education. And I think it has been worth discussing these things. And the format of this conference has been adapted to that goal. So we had very few plenary lectures, very few keynotes, in fact, but most of the work happened in the working groups, and the working groups, I think, have been very, very active, and I do hope that you are taking along quite a lot of ideas, ideas about strategy, but also ideas about implementation, and some examples or case studies about implementation of research-based education or research-based learnings. Also, there will be no conclusion, in the sense that there will be reports now from the different working groups, because this is a topic where you cannot reach very clear conclusions as such. The main point has been to the exchange of ideas, to give you ideas to take home, and to ideas that you might want to discuss with your colleagues back home, and then see whether and in which form they can be implemented. We will, however, try to summarize the discussions that were going on in the working groups, and this will take a little bit of time, but I'm very grateful to the group leaders who have taken notes over the last 2 days, and they will send the notes to me, and then we will produce a kind of summary, so that, again, in addition to the slides of the presentations, you have the chance of remembering some of the things that were said in the various discussion groups. Also, in line with the difference and with the distinctness of the seminar, we are not going to have reports from the working groups, but we will have reports from, or impressions rather, from your trainers. All the 3 trainers have gone through the 3 working groups, and it will be interesting for us to hear whether there has been something in the discussions that has also been interesting for the trainers, and the trainers might want to take along from this seminar. So I would like to ask Wolfgang first. This is very informal, this is very ad hoc, so there are no slides, there are no presentations, but impressions from our trainers. Wolfgang, would you like to be first and take this hot seat?
Okay, it's a bit like musical chairs.
It's not going to be pulled away.
Good, and the music has already stopped. Yes, as Arthur said, I would like to give you our impressions for Christopher, Julia, and myself from the 3 workshops. First of all, thank you to all of you for your participation and your effort in the group work and in listening to us and asking questions. I think the main thing that we're taking away from this seminar is the extremely broad range of different stages of development, of needs, of problems that you have in your institutions, but also of opportunities and strategies that you already have in place or have identified for solving some of the problems we put to you. So the diversity represented here is really something that has opened my eyes and sort of is going to make me put my experience at Humboldt into a different perspective, probably a lot calmer and a lot more relaxed. The key thing thematically that came out of our 3 workshops for me is the problematic relationship between research and teaching, which seems to be very difficult to define. So on one hand, it's very clear that we say that at university level, all good teaching has to be research informed. In order to be a good teacher at university level, you have to be, in some sense, research active. In 1 or 2 of the workshops, the idea of scholarship as an alternative form from research active in the sense of publishing work of global renown was suggested. On the other hand, this was the problem that we put to you, very much a local problem at Humboldt University. We have research universities where some of the top researchers are so research active that they never engage in teaching of any substance. So in a sense, the research experience seems to be lost. And I think this tension, teachers that are not researching, researchers who are only researching, that pretty much sums up the spectrum of experiences that were gathered at this conference. There have been different ideas on how we could tackle this, how we could solve the problem. I'm as yet undecided which of the ones I like best, but we'll try some of them at home and then we'll probably come back and report on how that went. The other questions that came out of our workshops that we didn't really have time to answer, or that we didn't go into in much detail, were questions of the level of implementation. So here in this group, just as much as back at home at Humboldt University, there are lots of different opinions on how and where research-based education should best be located, at what stage our students know enough for us to trust them to engage in independent research. I think this will be an ongoing discussion, and we've already pretty much resolved that there can't be a single answer to that, but you may try different things in your institutions. The other thing that came out of me, and this is probably the one really positive thing that I'm going to take away from this conference, is the level of feedback and interest in our project that we've had from you and the contacts that I've made here. So I'm sure that this is a little bit like research in practice. We've had short conversations about the things we do at our respective universities, but really the discussion, for me at least, is by far not over yet. So I'm expecting lots of you to email us and us to email you back with questions and answers. So I see this as a start of a discussion rather than an end point or high point where things are settled and solved. That's my impressions.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Mick, you will be next. By the way, Ellen cannot be with us for this final event because she had to leave a little bit earlier. Mick, please, will you take the chair?
Right. I must admit I prefer standing up to this, but I shall try to do things. I want to look to the future rather than just reflect on what's happened here. My take is that Bologna actually provides opportunities to get more students involved in research and inquiry, particularly at the undergraduate level. Now we have the 3-year cycle, and this varies a lot by institution and by country, what practices there are. But there are quite a lot of institutions which don't yet have an undergraduate research project to be the sort of capstone element. There are some countries where that's very common. I was talking in Sweden, they say, oh, we always do that, but it's not the same in all countries. I think that is one area where I'm seeing some move and an opportunity, because if you're going to be an exit qualification, having a capstone project at the end of it is a fruitful way. But it's not the only way in which we can get involved. I was arguing you ought to do it, and I might actually disagree a little bit with Wolfgang, on the day that students walk in the institution. I think we can learn about research by doing it, not just wait until the glass is half full before you can do anything interesting. I think there are too many institutions which say that and do the interesting work in the second and final year, and we just tread water in the first year. We actually turn off a lot of our brightest students, and wherever I've seen students challenged, I continue to be amazed at the quality of work that they can produce. This is an international topic. As you'll gather, I travel around the world talking about this, and in every institution I've been, particularly in the Western world, this is a hot topic. There's debates going on here, and many of the examples I gave you, you'll have seen, have come from other parts of the world than just Europe. And there's a plea there in a sense that somebody said they're mainly English-speaking examples that I've got. Well, that happens to be my network, but I'd love to hear from some of you, and I've already had a few conversations with people, if you've got examples you want to share so that we can tell other people in other countries the excellent work you're doing. Because I'm going to make 5 very brief comments, and the first one relates to that, and that is you're doing a lot of this already. There's a lot of good practice out there, and we may not have used the terminology to describe it. It's a very common reaction in workshops that I run is, oh, I do that, but I didn't actually give it that label. And that's certainly come through to me in conversations in the last couple of days. So, first one, doing much already. The second one is a consequence of that. I think we need to celebrate that work which we are doing and get it known better. I often say I can go into almost any department in a Western university and find something interesting, but often their colleagues don't know they're doing it. And I think there's a coming out process there to actually celebrate the work we're already doing. And if you want just one strategy for moving an institution forward, I'd say start where you are and celebrate what you're already doing, rather than have people give lectures to you about what you should do. Start from where you are. Thirdly, this is a point I made in many of the workshops. It links, research-based education links to a lot of other strategies that institutions want to engage. And I gave examples. If you've got an employability strategy or a widening participation strategy, you can help deliver that through getting students involved in research-based education. And it's often a cunning way of persuading higher management that we can help deliver their agenda, but also we deliver our agenda we want to in terms of research-based education. 2 other points. One, for those of you who haven't done much in this area yet, and even those who have, I think we have to take a few risks. In order to take risks, though, we need to be in a safe environment. And I think that is a challenge to some of our senior managers and indeed some of our QA processes, that they often risk adverse. Whenever you introduce an innovation, usually the marks actually drop for the first year while you and the students are learning about it. They pick up again afterwards. But the last thing you want to be is heavily criticised when you're actually trying to explore new ideas. So I think we need to take some risks, and they have to be carefully thought out. We can't just experiment our students as if they're guinea pigs, but we want to take them along with us. But I think I always argue, start small but think big, and explore new ideas in that way, and that applies, I think, just to innovation in teaching. And the final point I would make, I was delighted that there were a few students here. I think we could actually do with more students here in this type of workshop, because for me, the biggest message I say is, if we're going to move in this area, involve the students. We tend to devise curriculum and then give it to the students. We're the experts, you do what we say. Again, my experience is when we have the students around the table, not only doing research as co-producers, co-researchers, but also with a curriculum, co-designers of the curriculum. There's quite a movement. I've just been in Canada where 3 different related conferences were talking about students as change agents, where we get students involved, coming to the table and involved, not just listening to their voices, but going beyond the voice and involving them as co-researchers, co-learners, co-designers, and actually doing projects about teaching and learning, but as collaborators and not a them and us. And I think that's the move for higher education. Bring the students in, we'll learn an awful lot from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick, also for bringing in the students. We have asked Tim Birtwistle, our UK Bologna expert, to be in all the workshops and to observe a little bit what's going on. Okay, bogged down by the work?
No, it's about me.
Okay, good. So, would you be so kind as to share your observations with us?
I too don't like sitting down, but I do have a bad knee, so apologies. Also, of course, a great evening on the boat, a gentle walk home with 1 or 2 stops, should we say, and then a long night watching the election, because once you switched it on, it was difficult to switch off. So, a little jaded. As Arthur said, I went into all 3 workshops twice. So I saw part of each workshop, the beginning of all and part of the middle or end of all 2. And what I thought I would try to do is to think about what the main takeaways are from this, rather than going through each topic and saying, oh, well, the matrix was there from Mick Healy and the matrix was developed in the Humboldt work, and the elite research-based education at Maastricht growing from problem-based learning and so on. So I thought these were my takeaways. As a lawyer, as I always say, the only things we have to play with are words, and so nomenclature seems quite important. And what it seemed to me from the discussions is that research-based learning seems a more appropriate label for this than research-based education. I think it fits in better with our Bologna roles. When we think about lifelong learning, we think about learning outcomes, we think about students, we think about recognition of prior learning, credits with the based on learning as well. So I think research-based learning seemed to be, to me, it resonated better with what I think about. I think there's a large element of what my American colleagues would always refer to as mom and apple pie, and this is definitely apple pie. It's a great idea. Everybody says, oh, that's a good idea, but then nobody is quite sure what the idea is. So there's a huge spectrum of opinion about what this all means. So is it involvement in research for some, for all? Is it benefiting from research, from active researchers, or what I termed as super inquirers, the teachers who are well boned up on their subject, but, as you said, are probably not active researchers? So there's something to think about there, and where it all fits into the matrix, and is it all in the top right-hand corner, or is it down at the bottom left, or bottom right, or top left? Is it just for some? I mean, I think certainly the Maastricht experience is that it is a program distilled for the elite, from the elite. So you get a very, I think John Riley said to me, 96.5% of their students are not following the program. So it's a fairly thin atmosphere that they operate in. Is it just aimed at making the doctoral cycle better? No. Aimed at preparing doctoral aspirants better? No. Recognizing that all need exposure to research methods and research, and that even, as Mick pointed out, the humblest undergraduate in their first week of higher education can actually participate in something that is research. And we have this broad spectrum of definition. Luck or strategy? We all know that sometimes things happen at our institution because of luck. It could be that you met somebody at an airport and it was a great idea to have a seminar or to exchange students. That is increasingly not happening, and strategy is taking over. So, whoops, the screen decided to pack up. Really, again, I think looking at, in particular here, Humboldt and Mick Healy's presentations, institutional strategies, bringing strategies forward so that we can achieve something and implement change. So change culture, attitude, belief, approach, and so we have strategy through to process, and process through to outcomes. And then we have something that is hopefully sustainable. Problems, everybody mentioned problems, and thinking of the American election, is the state the problem or the answer? Are the academic staff, the faculty, the problem or the answer? Well, certainly there can be no answer without the academic staff being involved and buying into change, because we, and many of us are faculty, academic staff, we have to be involved and lead the change. And saying to somebody the other day that the problem is if we sit passively and wait for change, somebody will impose change. And if governments and other agencies get involved in change, then what is a horse that is designed by a committee? It's a camel. And so we don't want a camel, we want higher education to flourish and to be for the benefit of all. So we need to be involved in change. So some problems. And this brings about my hobby horse, the 21st century learner, that mentioned once or twice before, that we need to engage all people who are learning. If this is good, then it should be good for everybody. And therefore we have to develop mechanisms to roll this out so that everybody takes benefit. So we live in interesting times, as the proverb goes. So thanks to all those who have made this possible, facilitated sessions, engaged in debate. And we will now take, as Arthur said, our thoughts away. We'll engage the discussion with a broader population, and higher education will, the supertanker that it is, change direction, move, develop, and as I say, I think we have to be the generators and the drivers of that change, so that the change is for the best and not in some terrible camel-like way. So those were my takeaways, and thank you.